Ever hear a song that instantly takes you back to a moment, a place, or a time in your life? A song that when you really hear it, you're right back where you were when you did. Think about it. Welcome to Wandering the Wild Mess with Heather Morgan. I am so happy you're here. I bring that up because you know how much I love music, but I want to there's a bigger purpose in all of this. I really want us to talk today about the stories we tell ourselves in our mind and the power that storytelling with a melody has in our lives. Because really, our life is just the story we want to feel and the one we want to tell ourselves. So today we're going to dive into the power of music and how it really connects to our journey in life. And I know that who doesn't like music? I remember thinking back, and I have to tell y'all this is like really weird story, but when I was in high school, we had like this project. I think I was a sophomore, and we had to like interview people about a topic, like random strangers. And this was not like in a real big time of the internet. So, anyways, I'm going around and my topic was, why do you like music? So I was like legit at the gas station being like, excuse me, sir, by the Slurpee machine, why do you like music? And like so randomly, that's what I wanted to find out from people because I remember like I probably asked, no joke, hundreds of people. Like I went to the grocery store, Harmon's back home, like I was asking all these people. And the one thing I remember is out of everyone, like it was kind of an assumption question, right? I'm assuming you like music. It's almost like, why do you like food? I mean, most people like food. So what you're not going to ask like, do you like food? So I just assume people like music. I remember there was like one person that's like, I don't like music. And I was like, I don't even know what. All right, moving on, Cliff. But I remember asking people, and there was such a different array of answers throughout those questions. And a lot of people like talked about how it made them feel, right? Like it helped them change their mood. And then flash forward to now in my adult life, like thinking back on that, like what a profound question to have people have to think about because I don't think you get asked that very often. But it's such a strangely influential part of our life is just the music that we listen to and how we relate to certain things in our lives to a song. And I feel like whether it's memories or just cherished moments, we really can learn what music has as far as like this magical ability to speak to our souls and kind of guide us through the mess of life. So I want to share a little bit of a personal story about a journey where I remember a song just hitting my soul so hard. And I heard it again the other day. And it wasn't like I think it should be a super popular song. I don't listen to the radio, but I don't think it got radio play. But it was so good. And it literally was one of those times where the first time I heard it, I was like, this song is like speaking to my actual life scenario situation right now. Everything I felt in that moment, that song that I never heard, just it's like it magically appeared in my life. Never heard it before. And now I relate. And so it's kind of wild to think about that. Like, because I'm sure there's some of y'all have had those moments where you're just like going through life and you're going through something. And then this song, you're like, was this like exactly written about what I'm thinking in my head? Because it feels like it. And I love thinking like that sometimes because you realize we're all just doing this wild mess human experience, like living life for the first time together. But there's so much shared experience and so much synergy in things that we're going through and how we feel about the things that we're going through. And so I'll take you back to the story. This is me going back to literally right before my divorce. Like before I said I would like the divorce. So this is June of 2022, and I'm in Oklahoma. And I was there to visit my grandma. She was turning 95, and my husband didn't come at the time because it just didn't make sense. Like, flights were still ridiculous, like, for to go from Utah to Oklahoma, and he had work and wanted to use his time off elsewhere. So I went by myself. So needless to say, I'm there, and I remember that I was driving. So I stayed in Oklahoma City a night because that actually has things to do. But where my family lives is like small town Oklahoma, so there's not really much. So I was like doing the drive from Oklahoma City to Marlow, Oklahoma, if you know. And it's just like these random two lanes. It's wide open, and I'm just listening to, I don't even know what I was listening to, how the song came on, but it's Tanner Usrey, Beautiful Lies. And I sat there and just felt every single word. I think I knew a lot of things were like coming in my mind. They were coming to a head, but it's so crazy how sometimes in life we don't listen to our intuition or things that we know we should be doing, that we know like we need to go in one direction, but for some reason we're pulling ourselves back to stay where we are. I know I've talked about that a lot. Our subconscious does not love us to go to places it's never been because it likes to keep us safe, quote unquote. But and when I say safe again, I don't want to digress so much, but really the safety is that your subconscious was doing that from like back in the day where we were like cavemen and there was things that were trying to attack us all the time. And so the familiarity of safety was very important for survival. Fast forward to now, it serves a different purpose and sometimes allows us to stay where we've always been and holds us back from things unless we know how to have an understanding of our subconscious and a healthy relationship with it. But I won't go too deep in all of that. That's the little geek neuroscience, like psychology piece of me that I love. But what I'll say is that in that moment of time, I knew like so much needed to be different, but I was just so good at continuing down this, sweep it under the rug, everything's fine, what are you doing? Just really heavy on stay where you've always been, girl. Like, you have it good, life is fine, don't change it all up. But as much as I knew and had so many pulls that I needed to make a change, that I know that this was no longer my path, that it wasn't right for either of us, that some disruption needed to happen. I knew that. And but I kept it to myself. I kept it to myself because I didn't know what to do with it. But I'm driving down this Oklahoma 2 lane and I hear this song, and I'm going to give you a little because I mean it's poetry in my mind obviously. But it's, and I know everything has changed. Nothing's supposed to stay the same, but you've become a ghost in this place. So talk to me, tell me what I need to hear. Wrap me up with your beautiful lies. I know you're leaving and you're standing at the door. I can see the heartbreak in your eyes. So keep on telling me those beautiful lies. And I mean, really, the line that says nothing's supposed to stay the same, it kind of made me realize that that sometimes is true when you know it's not supposed to stay the same. And then later in this, and in the second verse, he has a line that says, "Forever was a promise you couldn't keep." Like, he should have known forever was a promise you couldn't keep. And that felt like me. And I think why it was so hard is because I felt like such a horrible person and wife and partner for feeling that way. Because I didn't want to. But I started to understand that sometimes, even when we don't want to feel a certain way, we do. Like, we do. And I love that music allows us to kind of trigger those emotions that we're working so hard to suppress because it connects to us so loudly when we really listen. And I feel like in life, you really listen when you're supposed to hear what's being said. That's why oftentimes the wisest words can be told to a group of people, but only a handful take away what really the message was because we're not always in the same place in our journey to listen to what was said. It's like your ears and mind have to be open to what you're hearing. And sometimes we do such a good job of just blocking life out from being real to us. And when I say that, I kind of mean like we work really hard to just believe that what we're doing is the best we could. And I'm not saying it isn't. Sometimes it is and in those moments and times, but sometimes in life there becomes a point where it's no longer the best anymore. And like he says, I know everything. I think later he says, I know everything's supposed to change. And that's true. Things are meant to change and evolve. And I think that we all know that, but it's so hard for some of us to accept. And so I don't know if I had just first heard that song that moment or if I'd heard it before, but it never felt and resonated the way it did. But I'm pretty sure I didn't hear it because it's an amazing song. And if I hear an amazing song, like I usually stop, even if I can't relate. Exactly. So I'm pretty sure, but I just think it's wild that it got presented into my life at the time because I think Tanner came out with that song like in 2019 and this is 2022. I hadn't even heard it. So just saying. It was such a pivotal time and I the other day when I heard it, I was like, gosh, when I heard that song, I knew my entire life was going to change likely when I got back home to Utah. I knew it. And I remember listening to that song on repeat the entire plane ride or most of the plane ride home from Oklahoma to Utah. And I do that a lot. I don't know if y'all can relate, but I just like repeat or like just really like hyper fixate on a song in a moment of time that I can relate to. But it was one of those times and I realized that sometimes we want to be stuck in that feeling and it's almost as if I needed to so that it would help put me in the place I needed to go. And that's how I'm kind of ticking and tying music and thoughts and words to the story of our life. We kind of make it becomes something we can relate to, and then we replay it, and then it becomes our situation over and over again. And that was probably one of the hardest parts about my divorce looking back. I love a good sad song. We've talked about this before. I made sad songs my whole personality during my divorce. I can think of there are so many songs that are like trigger me right back to my kitchen drinking wine in Utah, like a lot. And I made a playlist. I want you guys to check it out if you're listening. It's on Spotify and Apple. It's called Wandering the Wild Mess Playlist. And it literally has all the songs I've mentioned on my podcast. And I just feel like if you like, and most of them are country, if you like a good heartbreak sad song, there's a little bit that might make you feel happy in there, sprinkled throughout. It's just a good playlist to kind of go, this is like what it's like to get separated and divorced. Or this is like what it feels like to enjoy the heartbreak. Or this is what it's like to start my life all over after heartbreak. That's what kind of playlist it is for me. And I wanted to share it with y'all because I love music and love just bonding through music and sharing songs with people. It just makes me so happy. So That's my shameless plug about my playlist available for you guys to listen. I would also love any recommendations. So, shoot them my way. You can do that on my website or any of my socials. But all right, back to the story. So here I am in Oklahoma crying over this Tanner Usrey song, just losing my mind. And I just remember so many times that I let a song take me to a place where I didn't know if I necessarily wanted to be. And I remember also, like, I had this hiking playlist, and what I would do when I was back home in Utah, my therapy was just going hiking up the mountain I would do it on the weekends through my divorce. Cause again, remember, and I hope like this helps you just know that it's okay to have times you're alone. Because I was so alone even though I had all my friends because they just had their own busy lives, and here I am just like this messy divorced woman or whatever. So I was and no one would like I was just so in my feels all the time. And so I would just go hiking by myself and I'd just have these playlists and I'd listen to this music. And I remember I'd be like full on like hiking up a mountain and it would just be like, "Oh," and I would be like crying. Like people walk by and I'm just like, "Hi," like tear-filled eyes, like faking a smile. Like I feel like that's a perfect depiction of life when you're going through it. You're just like, still gotta move, like, let's go. And then you see people and you're just like wiping the tears, waving, smiling, pretending like you're not like literally listening to the most heart wrenching song and you're like, my whole life is falling apart. And you're just kind of like, but hey, how's it going, Bill? Oh, I mean, you don't know his name, but it's probably Bill. And, it's just one of those. So I feel like it was just, I remember like getting down the mountain after one particular hike when it was just so clear. And I've told this before, but me and my ex were sending songs back, which I 100% do not recommend. Like that's two, 3 out of 10, maybe. I just liked, I did learn about that song, the Brian Martin one that ended up being part of my life. So for that, I guess it was a little bit worth it, but it was just really hard to hear the songs that he sent me because it told me how he felt about everything. And hearing those songs, it made me like every time I heard a song where the man was like pretty much mad about the woman for breaking his heart, it made me feel like a bad person. And I guess that's kind of like the power of music and songs is that instead of someone just telling you to your face, "Hey, you really hurt my heart. Thanks for doing this, this, and this." Then you just hear it from them once and mostly you'll probably forget that conversation or maybe not. But every time the song comes on, you're like, "Oh, remember when you broke someone's heart?" And then you have to feel crappy. But I'm really working on realizing that I know it was the right choice. So I stopped feeling guilty and crappy now because I know that I did the right thing for us. I know I did, and I'm getting to that place. But I realize music kind of took me there. It's weird of a full circle moment to think about in our lives where you can be triggered by one song that makes you know your life's about to change. And then songs are the soundtrack of the whole dramatic event of what you have to do to change your whole life. And then you move off to Music City and are exposed to music in a whole different way that you never even knew was part of a life. And so I don't even know if my existence would feel the way it did without music. And that's kind of beautiful itself. And then when I think about it, a lot of the amazing people I've met in my life, what I've bonded with them over was music. We had a soundtrack in the background of everything we did. Our time together, like even if it was short, with some of these people that mean so much to me, it was like as soon as I heard a song, it would take me back to my time with them. And I'm not one for living in the past per se. I know I talk about my past a lot because there's lots of lessons that I take from it. And there's so much work that I've done on myself to really understand who I am and who I want to become and all of those things. And I think sometimes self reflection is just a key piece of that. I feel like I like kind of dancing a little with the past because I love to tell the story of what was. But I think there's like even more beauty in understanding that what is even more exciting. It's just what is right now. And the song that is resonating for me right now, even though an older one of, and I really am a big Ella Langley fan, but she has a song called Hey Ma, I Made It. And obviously she's kind of grown into her fame since she wrote the song. But I feel that. I love the idea of the song because if you think about it, you're writing it from a position of your growth into like, hey mom, I made it from point A to point B. And then, hey ma, I made it literally here I am to that real end goal that I had. And I think all of us in life, for the most part, would just smile at the thought to say to their mother, "Hey, ma, I made it." Whatever making it looks like for you. And although I will say again, because I want y'all to know how special you are just the way you are in this very moment in time, you don't have to be anything other than what you are already to be worthy of all the things you want from life. But I know we don't get everything exactly in the timeline that we want to. We just have to continue to kind of trek up the mountain. And there is a point in time where we do get to feel like I made it. There are those moments for us. But every moment that we're living, we're making it, right? So I want you to celebrate the moments and the wins where it's small, but also realize that it's just such a beautiful piece of life where you can be one moment here and then the next moment you're where you've always wanted to be. But I know that the key is just to be enjoying what you have while you have it. Because I look back to that time in Oklahoma. I look back to my wild cross country road trip alone. And I'm like, in the moment, I was literally crying alone in motel rooms some of the drive. But then I like think back about it and I am so I miss it. I literally this week was thinking like I need another like cross cross country road trip. Like I want one. Because okay, I'll tell you one last story because it was so hilarious, but it reminded me of this. And I've been posting more on my TikTok, Utah Girl and Nash. So I'm just over the fear of all that. So if you want to kind of see me, I think it's supposed to get banned. So who knows? If you're listening to this later and TikTok's like completely obsolete, then this will be kind of funny. But anyways, so I remembered when this is how much I love music, y'all. And I'm just giving this side of my personality right now because you guys are all my like best friends because like you hang out with me every week. But I wanted to tell you like when I was doing that cross country road trip, I went and visited my grandma in Oklahoma. So I like went out of the way to stop in Oklahoma. So that was great. And then, so that kind of allowed me to go through Texas. And I was like, I'm going to Amarillo because Amarillo by morning, of course. I was like, I don't care. I have to relate to that song. I need to be in Amarillo so I can hear that song. I'm going to Amarillo. So I go to Amarillo. I get there. I didn't really know what to expect, but there wasn't a lot going on. But it was great. So I Googled and it was like, you got to go to the Big Texan. So I was like, I'm rolling up to the Big Texan. So I put it in Google Maps, get to the Big Texan. Actually, I don't even know. Like it was like the biggest thing there. It was this bright yellow like building. It's got the Texas flags all over. Like tons of cars in the parking lot. Like, this is the spot. So I roll up, park my Suburban, like gonna have some dinner, go in. There's tons of people. It looks super touristy, like so cool, whatever. I sit at the bar. I'm sitting there. I don't really remember what I ordered to eat, but like something. I get some dinner. There's like, it's all just guys at the bar and me. And they're kind of like chit chatting a little. Well, I am going to the restroom before I was like done with my dinner. I come back and this kind stranger had paid for my dinner. Like I asked for the check and he's like, "Oh, he paid for your dinner." So I was like, "Oh." So I went and I was like, "Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate that." I've talked to you about this before. This is kind of new for me because I'm not like now I'm newly single, not wearing a ring. People are like just offering things. It's very kind. And I'm just learning to just accept it instead of be like, you don't have to do that. La, 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 la. It's like if people want to be kind, let them. So I'm saying thank you. And he's like, okay, well, like, would you like to grab a drink with me? There's like music in the back, da da da. And I was like, when in Amarillo, I guess, in my head. So I was like, okay. So he buys us a drink. We go to the back. We're listening to music. It's really cool in the back though, because they have like games, like yard games type stuff, like cornhole and like all these different things. And there's like real freaking cowboy country people playing music. Like these guys probably have been playing music since like the 60s, 70s. I don't know. Like they were like on it. So I'm just enjoying it, like having a good, like I'm all, look at this, Amarillo. So we're chatting and I think we're on the music. Oops. I think we're on the topic of music. And he's like, all right, I have this idea. What if how about I book you a motel? You can pick whatever motel you want and you stay the night with me. I'm like, I'm in this small Amarillo spot with like, I mean, I could just imagine the great motels that were in Amarillo. But to that, I politely declined. And, he was a little persistent, but it's okay. Uh, but I left. And I might have told this story again, but before, I'm not sure. But it just kind of reminded me how like music sent me to places I didn't even know I wanted to be. But I loved it. Like it was the greatest experience. And just being able to have like a life where I'm just doing things like that and meeting people. And I think I told this because I did learn so much about this man's life in like such a short amount of time. And that's one of the coolest things about just doing things and going with life. And the song Amarillo by Morning is the reason I even had that story to tell. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up. All that to say is that songs are like stories that we can relate to. And when we keep those songs and stories in loop all the time, like I sometimes do, we feel those things, and that's the story we tell ourselves. So as much as I love sad songs, sometimes they keep you sad. So if you're doing that, maybe put on a more upbeat song. I mean, bar song. That's a good one by Shabuzi. That gets you in a mood. Also, I have something really exciting for next week's episode that I will want you to tune in for. So I'm really excited. And then I did want to also say that after this month, I'm going to move to just 2 episodes a month for right now. At least solo ones. As I work out all the guest things, there may be more, but I think I'll just put it on an every other like 2-week cadence. I'm telling you all this so you don't get too sad yet that you won't hear from me every single week, but we can definitely connect on socials. Again, you can visit my website. I'll have some exciting stuff there coming next week. And then also, so www.wanderingthewildmess.com. And you can follow me on my socials. Utah Girl in Nash on Instagram and TikTok. And yeah, I am really thankful y'all are here. I want to just end it by saying that songs, as much as they're the story of our life, we get to write our own story. So you decide what you want it to sound and feel and look like. You're the writer of your own novel, your own script. Whatever you want to be true in your life can be. So make it a good story that you get to tell. Thank you for listening to Wandering the Wild Mess with Heather Morgan. You matter.